This is a painting that doesn't just show death, it embodies it. It is a work of art so relentless, so horrifying, that it stands as a direct, unblinking reflection of a continent's deepest fears. For the people of 1562, it was not just a painting. It was a mirror held up to a world living under the constant specter of disease, famine, and war. This is The Triumph of Death, a masterpiece by Pieter Bruegel the Elder, and it is a work of art that once seen is impossible to forget. Bruegel was a master of his craft, known for his keen observation of peasant life and landscapes, earning his nickname Peasant Bruegel. But he was far from a simple folk painter. He was a refined, technical, and meticulous master who, after an apprenticeship, embarked on a defining journey to Italy around 1552. While most artists at his time went to study the classical ruins and works of the Renaissance masters, Bruegel, in a fascinating twist, seemed to ignore them. His biographers note that he was more interested in the monumental, jagged landscapes of the Alps he crossed his way. Karel van Mander, his early biographer, famously wrote that Bruegel swallowed all the mountains and rocks and spat them out again after his return onto his canvases and panels. This obsession with landscape as a character in its own right became central to The Triumph of Death, where the earth itself appears to have died. He returned to Flanders with a new artistic vision, a panoramic, almost bird's-eye view of the world, teeming with life and, in this case, death. He blended two distinct artistic traditions to create a new kind of horror. The first was the Danse Macabre, or Dance of Death, a medieval allegory popular since the time of the Black Death. It typically showed skeletons leading people of all ranks, from emperors to paupers, in a grim, unyielding dance toward the grave. It was a stark reminder of life's brevity and the universality of death. Bruegel combined this with the Italian concept of the triumph of death, a more dramatic, large-scale depiction of death's power as a monstrous figure on horseback, sweeping through the world and destroying everything. Bruegel's genius was infusing these two ideas into a single, overwhelming image, a work that captures the scale of a world on the brink of collapse. He stopped depicting the harmony of rural life and started depicting nightmares. But to truly understand why this painting resonated so deeply, we need to understand the world Bruegel inhabited. The year 1562 was not arbitrary. The Netherlands was on the brink of the 80 Years' War. The Spanish Inquisition had arrived in the Low Countries. Protestant iconoclasts would soon begin destroying Catholic art in churches, including, ironically, some of Bruegel's own works. The Little Ice Age was beginning, bringing crop failures and famine. In 1563, just a year after this painting, the plague would strike Antwerp, killing a third of the population. Bruegel wasn't painting a fantasy, he was painting a prophecy that was already coming true. Every element in this painting is loaded with symbolism. It's a work that rewards close study, revealing layer after layer of historical and psychological horror. Let's start with the central figure. A skeleton rides a horse, which appears in the Book of Revelation as the pale horse of death. While we can't say with absolute certainty that this is death incarnate, the visual cues overwhelmingly suggest it. Its reddish horse is emaciated, and the skeleton's presence is commanding, leading the army of the dead. This single figure encapsulates the terrifying power of death over the mortal world. The horse's skull-like head and gaunt frame are terrifying in contrast to lush, vibrant steeds of classical military paintings, emphasizing the victory of decay over life. The figures represent all of society, from the highest to the lowest. A king in his gold useless is shown dying. The king wears ermine robes and a crown that's slipping from his head. A skeleton shows him an hourglass, his time has run out. Another skeleton is already looting his barrel of gold coins, demonstrating the ultimate futility of earthly wealth. The detail is savage. The king's scepter lies useless on the ground, his power meaningless in the face of death. A clerical figure whose robes are blue-green is shown being led to his fate by a skeleton. The skeleton leading him wears a matching ecclesiastical hat, a vicious satire suggesting that death mocks religious authority by wearing its symbols. In the lower right-hand corner, a couple of lovers are engrossed in music and their own world, tragically oblivious to the carnage that is about to consume them. The man plays a lute, while the woman holds what appears to be a songbook. Behind them, a skeleton plays along on another stringed instrument, creating a grotesque trio. Their obliviousness is perhaps the most tragic element, so lost in their private world of beauty and love that they cannot see doom literally breathing down their necks. Some scholars interpret this as a critique of the wealthy, leisure class, too absorbed in their pleasures to notice society collapsing around them. The painting's chaotic scene is filled with individual stories of despair and doom. We see a skeleton cutting a man's throat, another hanging a man from a tree, and a skeleton leading a group of people into a giant coffin. That coffin trap deserves special attention. It's decorated with crosses, suggesting it might represent a church or holy sanctuary. The people crowding into it believe they're finding safety in religion, but they're actually entering their own mass grave. The entrance is shaped like a mouth, ready to swallow the faithful whole. Above it, more crosses stand like teeth. This was particularly subversive in Bruegel's time, suggesting that blind faith might lead not to salvation, but to death. Each small detail is a complete story of death's victory. Look at the bottom where a dinner party has been interrupted. The table is overturned, the food scattered. A skeleton wearing a mask, possibly made from human skin, empties wine jars. The backgammon board is upset, playing cards scattered on the ground. A fool hides under the table in a futile attempt to escape. One woman is embraced by a skeleton in a parody of after-dinner seduction, while another is served a platter of bones. The message is clear: death comes in the middle of life, when we least expect it, turning our pleasures into horror. In another section, we see methods of execution that were commonplace in Bruegel's time. The breaking wheel, where criminals were tied and their bones systematically broken. The gallows, with bodies hanging, burning at the stake. A headsman prepares to behead a victim who has just received last rites. These aren't fantastical tortures, they're documentary evidence of 16th century justice. Bruegel is showing that human cruelty has already invited death to rule the earth. Perhaps most disturbing are the small, easily missed details. A dog gnaws on a dead child in its mother's arms. Crows feast on the hanged. In one corner, a man with a millstone around his neck is about to be drowned. A reference to Matthew 18:6 about those who cause others to sin. Fish lie rotting on the shores of a pond, choked with corpses. Even nature itself is dying. Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of the triumph of death is that Bruegel never painted anything like it again. While he continued to create works with moral and religious themes, none were on this grand apocalyptic scale. His other famous pieces, such as the Tower of Babel or the Fall of the Rebel Angels, are also fantastical, but they don't capture the same kind of comprehensive, all-encompassing horror. This painting stands as a singular moment in his career, a raw, unflinching glimpse into the abyss of his time that he never revisited. It is as if, after creating this masterpiece, he had fully exorcised a demon of his era and was able to return to his studies of peasant life and nature. And that's exactly what makes this painting so unsettling. Because we're not witnessing evil through a clear narrative. We're witnessing the raw, indiscriminate power of an unavoidable force. And that, perhaps, is the darkest detail of all. Before we go, what was your first reaction when you saw this painting? Did it make you uncomfortable, curious, maybe even both? Art tells us the story of a time and a place, and in this one, the story is both chilling and deeply human. In our age of pandemics and foreign conflict, doesn't Bruegel's vision feel surprisingly contemporary? If you'd like to explore more art that captures the profound moments of human history, let me know in the comments, and consider possibly subscribing. Keep exploring and keep looking for the stories that art can tell, because sometimes the darkest stories are the ones we need to hear most.